Algebra students, welcome to video 7. In this video, we're learning how to solve quadratic equations by factoring. This is the same topic that was in video 6, but this is day 2. The factoring problems are going to be a little bit more involved. So the problems are going to look almost exactly like they did last time, except now all the problems that we're solving have an a value that is greater than 1. And we know that when the a value is greater than 1, the factoring is a little bit different than when a is equal to 1. So the steps to solve are still the same as they were in the previous video. So we need to make sure our equation is in standard form. And again, standard form of a quadratic is ax squared plus bx plus c equals 0. So we need our equation to equal 0. Example 1 is ready to go because it equals 0. So then we're ready to factor. Step 1 of factoring is always checking to see if we have a greatest common factor. So is there a number that you could divide all 3 terms by? And in this case, yes, there is. You can divide each term by 3. So we can factor out a 3, and in the parentheses, we're left with x squared plus 3x minus 4, and it still equals 0. Now we can factor the inside of the parentheses. Just like we did in the last video, we make an x puzzle. Negative 4 goes on top and 3 goes on bottom. Factors that work for that are 4 and negative 1, which means this 3 is still out front. And then the parentheses factor as x plus 4 times x minus 1. And then that still equals 0. So step 2 is factoring. Step 3 is we need to take each factor and set it equal to 0. So the 3 does count. So we have 3 equals 0, but we know 3 doesn't equal 0. So that basically gives us no information about x. Then our next one, x plus 4 equals 0. And our last one, x minus 1 equals 0. If we solve each of those, we get x equals negative 4 and x equals 1. And again, on your online homework, it's going to have you write that as a list with commas in between. Alright, so that's our first problem with an a value greater than 1. We're going to jump down here to example 3. This is in standard form, ax squared plus bx plus c equals 0. So now we are ready to factor. This does not have a greatest common factor, so now this is an AC split problem or a box method problem. So I'm going to do the AC split. So remember, you do a times c, which would be 2 times negative 5. That's negative 10, and it goes on top of the x puzzle. And on the bottom, you put your b value. And numbers that work for that are 5 and negative 2. So then doing the AC split, that's when we split our b term between the 5 and the negative 2. So this becomes 2x squared. I'm going to write minus 2x plus 5x minus 5 equals 0. Okay, then we group. The first 2 terms have a 2x in common, so we can factor that out, and we're left with an x minus 1. The second 2 terms have 5 in common. Factor that out, and we're left with x minus 1. It still equals 0. And then our last step of the AC split is whatever is in front of those parentheses is one of your factors, so 2x plus 5. And the matching set of parentheses is your other factor. And now I'm going to jump over here to finish the problem. You set each factor equal to 0 and solve for x. So for this first factor, we have 2x plus 5 equals 0. So we would subtract 5 from both sides. 2x equals negative 5. X equals negative 5 over 2. So that's one of our answers. And you're going to notice in today's homework that you are going to get fractions for your answer. And then our other answer comes from our other factor. If we have x minus 1 equals 0, when we solve that, we get x equals 1. So our 2 solutions are negative 5 halves, comma, 1. All right, we'll do one more example. we're going to do this number 9 here. So step 1 is this in standard form? No, this time it's not. So it doesn't equal 0, and we need to make this equal 0. So what we do is we need to move this 2 over so we can add 2 to both sides. So we get 3x squared plus 7x plus 2, and now it equals 0, and we're ready to factor. Okay, this time I'm going to do the box method just so that I do one of each. So first we have our x puzzle. We do a times c, which is 6 on top, and then the b value on bottom, that's 7. Numbers that work for that are 6 and 1. And then if you're doing the box method, you would draw your rectangles. The a term, so the 3x squared, goes on the top right. On the bottom left is the 2. And then instead of 7x, we write it as 6x and 1x. Then we find our greatest common factor of each column and each row. So in the first column, our greatest common factor is 3x. In the second column, it's 1. In the first row, it's x. And in the second row, it's 2. So then our factored form becomes 3x plus 1 from the top. And then from the side, we get x plus 2. And then this still equals 0. Now, again, we set each factor equal to 0 and we solve for x. So our first factor is 3x plus 1. We set that equal to 0 and we solve for x. So subtract 1 from both sides and divide by 3. We get x equals negative 1/3. And then our second factor, x plus 2 equals 0. When we solve that, we get x equals negative 2. So there's our 2 answers. That's pretty much it for today's lesson. I do want to show you number 12 here, just one more, putting it in standard form. I'm not going to finish the problem, but to put this in standard form, the x squared needs to move over and the 2 needs to move over. So we're going to subtract x squared from both sides and subtract 2 from both sides. So we get 4x squared plus 7x minus 2 equals 0. Remember to put it in order with the ax squared first, then the bx, then the c. You're going to have some homework problems that ask you to do that. Okay, so you are ready to go do Delta Math Homework 7. Good luck!